One of my favorite stories about David actually comes back before he was king of all Israel, and it was when he was still a rogue warrior out in the desert places, and it's at the end of First Samuel. What happened was, while he was out raiding against the Canaanites, that's even a funny story because he had at one point pretended to be crazy so that the Philistines would let him kind of ride with them, and he grew a friendship with this king named Achish, and what he would do though is that he would go and ride out against and actually take out some Philistines at times, and he would other Canaanite bands. He would ride out and raid them, killing them all so that no one would know that it was David that was doing the killing. And he'd come back to the king, and the king thought he was great, and there actually was a friendship there. The king ended up giving him a city named Ziklag. That's where the story is. One day he was after he was out raiding, he came back to Ziklag, and well, this is how the story reads. It's 1 Samuel 30. It says, "Now when David and his men came to Ziklag on the third day, the Amalekites had made a raid against the Negeb and against Ziklag. They had overcome Ziklag, and they burned it with fire, and they'd taken captive the women and all who were in it, both small and great. They killed no one, but they carried them off, and they went their way. And when David and his men came to the city, they found it burned with fire, and their wives and their sons and daughters were taken captive. And David and the people who were with him raised their voices and wept until they had no more strength to weep." You can imagine the pain, anguish. David's two wives also had been taken captive: Ahinoam of Jezreel and Abigail, the widow of Nabal of Carmel. That's a whole nother story that maybe we'll talk about. But David was greatly distressed, for the people, his own men, spoke of stoning him now because of all the people were bitter in soul, each for his sons and daughters. But it says David strengthened himself in the Lord. What a great line. But David strengthened himself in the Lord, his God. It's an amazing line. You can imagine him hearing his own men talking about stoning him, wondering, where is he? Where is that guy? He was once this beloved leader of the mighty men, of David, and now he was kind of like friendless, and just he was bowing before the Lord, somehow strengthening himself in the Lord. What did he do? I don't really know. Perhaps he went off on his own somewhere in the desert places. Perhaps he was in his tent on his knees, but he strengthened himself in the Lord. Did he plug in the latest Chris Tomlin CD? Did he grab his guitar, start singing? Did he write a song? Did he recite a psalm? Well, there weren't really any psalms written in book form at that point. He wrote most of them. So perhaps he wrote a psalm or a song. I know that's how I strengthen myself in the Lord when I'm feeling the weight of ministry, or maybe there's some people issues or crises that I just can't handle, and I just feel the weight of it, and so I take it to the Lord. I will sing. Sometimes I'll write a song. Sometimes I'll just read a psalm and meditate on it, or sometimes it might just be one verse that comes to me, and I'll just really soak in that one verse. Usually a promise of God that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, or I'm with you always. I'll strengthen you with my righteous right hand. Those kind of things, and you strengthen yourself in the Lord. They say that for every problem in life, there's a promise in the scriptures. I put that to the test. I've tried to, think of a problem that is really modern 2020 problem, even COVID or something like that. For every problem, there's a promise. And you think about it, God is, at the very most, God is with us, will not leave us nor forsake us. That's a promise that can really help in any problem that we face. But I think David could have written a psalm, maybe Psalm 18 that comes to mind. This is a great psalm about, if you look at it, you could go to the end first and look at just what has happened here. I mean, God, the King of Heaven, the warrior King of Heaven, He's baring his strong right arm. He's rushing to the aid of his servant. His nostrils are blaring. He's just fire and brimstone God coming to the rescue of his servant David. And you go like, why? What happened here? At the beginning of the psalm, it says, I called unto the Lord. That's all it is just really calling unto God. It's going to God, picturing yourself in the very throne room of God, because he said that is open access to you now. Hebrews 4:16, I think it is. It says, we have confidence to approach the throne of grace, to come before him. I'm going to double check that scripture, but to come before him in the throne of grace, just to get help in our time of need, that we can come before God, the God of the universe. Think about that, who's willing to help us. We can present our case to the King of Kings, and we can really do that. Sometimes we have a case that we need to present before God, and that's right. It was Hebrews 4:16 says, since then we have a great high priest who's passed through the heavens, Jesus, Son of God. Let us hold fast our confession, for we do not have a high priest who's unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who's every respect has been tempted the way we are. So here it is. So let us then with confidence draw near to the throne of grace, that we may receive mercy and find grace and help in our time of need. We can come before the throne of grace and present our case to God, lay it on his bench, so to speak, and just leave it with him. And that's a problem, is when we take it back. So leave it with him, trust the righteous judge to do rightly, to do what's right and good for all involved. Then we will have the peace and strength that we need.